Welcome back to Divorce After 50, the podcast where we talk honestly about rebuilding life after divorce, emotionally, practically, and financially. Today, we're focusing on financial clarity after divorce and how to choose the right financial advisor during this season of change. Divorce later in life comes with unique financial challenges, retirement, long-term planning, and often fear around making the wrong decisions. That's why I'm really glad to welcome Jeff Corbett to the show today. Jeff Corbett brings nearly 30 years of financial experience to his work as a wealth management advisor with Merrill Lynch. As a certified financial planner, Jeff helps clients align their goals with a clear, thoughtful financial plan, especially during major life transitions like divorce. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Before we get started, can you share a little bit about your background and the kind of clients you work with?
Sherry, thank you for having me. Yeah, I've been in the financial services industry since 1997, and I work with mostly individuals and couples, families related to most of the things we deal with are just like what we're talking about here today, making sure that the things that they need to be accomplished financially are taken care of on the timetable and in the manner in which they need them taken care of. So everything from retirement planning, which is the big one and probably the most prevalent one. People need to make sure that they're prepared well for that time and season of life where they can't earn a paycheck anymore. And but other things come into play as well, such as planning for other goals and education, things of that nature.
Great. Would you say you're a certified financial planner?
Yeah, certified financial planner is a credential that has become really important, I think, in the industry. I received that certification a few years ago, and it's something that I'm really proud of and glad that I went through the process of obtaining.
Well, let's start with the big picture. Why is financial planning especially important during and after a divorce later in life?
Well, what really seems to me to be the major issue with going through a divorce is that it's an emotional, heavy time, and because of that emotional strain and heaviness, it seems as though maybe things such as finances could be less important, lower priority. However, as with most things that people go through in life after a season of going through the emotional part of it, the grieving, if it's a loss of a loved one, in this case, it's kind of like a loss. It is a loss. After a period of time goes by, then nothing's changing with respect to the finances. The finances are still going on regardless of the emotional strain that's happening within the person's life. So making sure to not neglect that piece during the time that is very emotional and straining is critically important, because it's hard to go back and get that time back if decisions are made that aren't well thought out, or decisions are made that are rushed or poorly executed or any other thing like that. So,
well, I know in my personal experience, the decisions I made then have affected me now and will continue to, because that was over a decade ago, and a lot of things have happened since then, and so you do need to make those clear, have a lot of clarity around those decisions for sure.
Absolutely. It's very important to have people around you that you can trust that are going to direct you or guide you in a way that's going to help you make those good decisions when maybe it's not the top priority, or maybe it's not an area of expertise or even inclination to be concerned about.
Right. Yeah. Every time that I interview any special professional around a divorcing client, I emphasize, don't expect your attorney to know everything about what is best for you, because they don't, and the judge certainly doesn't, and they're making big choices for you based on the legal aspect of it. And if you don't have professionals like yourself to give you some good guidance, you can make some really bad decisions or be pressured into making decisions that benefit the other party. What are some of the biggest financial challenges you see people facing when they divorce at a later age?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer to that is that things change from the perspective of the assets that are available for the future. You go through a divorce, there's a division of assets, and so there may be less money there, and there needs to be a plan in place for what now, and what's the retirement picture look like from here with a new level of assets. In some cases, there's the taking over of those assets or being responsible for those assets that maybe wasn't there before. A lot of times in a marriage, one spouse or the other is responsible for kind of handling the financial aspect of the marriage, of the family. And of course, that can that changes in a divorce situation. Maybe it's a person who didn't have the responsibility over the finances and now is responsible for his or her own finances from that point forward. So I think that's one of the major financial challenges that people face. There's also the concern about just making emotional decisions, doing things rash in an urgent way that's unnecessary, or things that could be fearful decisions, things like that.
And definitely the income will change. Sometimes, you have a lot less to work with. And
yeah, the assets change and the income changes. Both of those two things are critically.
Yeah, those affect your financial future for sure. Is there any kind of like health care or insurance concerns that you would help them work through?
Well, although we're not licensed to provide health insurance to clients, I'm not licensed to do that. I like to be able to understand the topic well enough to be able to understand what the client's needs are, what they may or may not have in the way of health insurance, how that's going to be provided for. Sometimes there's a availability to keep the insurance that they previously had, but in a different way, separate. But many times that's not the case, and many times there is a need to go out and find new healthcare coverage. And so I like to be able to direct people to some quality institutions that can help them with that.
Many people worry their long-term goals, especially retirement, are no longer possible. How do you help clients reframe that?
Well, the retirement goals are going to be dramatically different, or at least somewhat different, and probably dramatically different, because the life has changed. The things that maybe were planned out prior to the divorce are just different. The goals are. So that needs to be rethought in the financial terms. Okay, and it could go either way. It could be, well, we had plans to do these types of things in retirement. This is what my vision was, and I expected it would cost this amount of money to live the retirement that I wanted to live. And now I don't really feel like that's something I want to do. I may have a less robust kind of retirement lifestyle, maybe a little, and so there may be a lesser amount of money that's necessary for the retirement goals and retirement income. Other times, people say, well, the plan prior to the divorce was that we probably would just do these types of things, which wouldn't be very expensive. And now I really want to do some things like travel or what have you that maybe cost a little bit more. So it really isn't easy to say what the goals will change, though. And they need to be, that needs to be thought through and explored with a financial advisor, and help the person to understand what needs to be done between now and retirement to make sure that they achieve the retirement income needs.
So
that they're
let's
going
talk
to
goal
have.
setting. After divorce, everything feels uncertain. Where should someone start?
I think a good place to start would be to think about what are the things that are most important in life, whether that be in what relationships, what experiences and life goals that a person has. Thinking through those things, and that's a very subjective thing. It's not something that any financial advisor can tell somebody to plan for. But once that vision has come into picture, into form, into frame there, then I think it shouldn't be too difficult to come up with an idea of how much money that a person would need to live a lifestyle that encompasses this vision. Okay, in Lexington, Kentucky, or wherever they happen to be living, you can kind of think, okay, well, to live that type of lifestyle, somewhere in the range of this to that might be an appropriate amount of income to in today's dollars to think about, and then go from there.
So basically, short-term and then long-term goals would be good things to consider. And short-term being, stabilizing yourself, getting to know what your cash flow is going to be and how much debt you're going to have. And then the retirement is the long-term goals and your lifestyle and legacy.
Well stated. Well stated. So the short-term goals, making sure that all of the critically urgent things that are necessary to be covered it need to be the top priority. Yes, and then once everyone's comfortable there, once the client is comfortable and the advisor is comfortable that there's a good game plan there, then moving toward those longer range goals.
Balance and everything. Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely the stabilizing yourself first of all, and that's kind of difficult to do when you're feeling unstable emotionally. How often do you think people should revisit and adjust their financial goals after they get a divorce?
Well, with us, we have a review meeting with each client at least once per year. I think it's important to have that revisit of the official goal plan, if you will, the measured goal plan. So having a goal plan in place where we've taken that vision and applied numbers to it and applied some mathematics to it and kind of calculated, okay, are we on a track and a path that's sustainable or likely to be achieved? Once we have that in place, revisiting that on at least once a year kind of basis, sometimes every 6 months makes sense. For some people, maybe even 3 or 4 times a year is a good idea, and until there is confidence and clarity about where things are headed.
A lot of people listening may feel overwhelmed or feel like they should know more than they do. What do you say to someone with little or no financial background? And I have to say that happens a lot. Most of the time it is the female that ends up without any kind of knowledge because they haven't been involved in the financial decisions. Probably not so much today, but in my mother's, and when she got a divorce when she was in her 40s, and her work experience and financial experience was a lot different than mine because I had been working and I was the one that handled our financial situation. But a lot of times they don't have any knowledge at all. So what would you do if you had a client come to you in that stage?
I think the first thing I'd do is really ask all the questions necessary to understand what the level of knowledge is of the financial topics. I think it would be not a great idea to assume or presume that someone has a level of has a knowledge level of here or there or wherever. So really getting to understand where a person is with respect to their knowledge of their situation and of financial topics in general is really important. But equally as important, I think, is establishing trust in that time of really having that conversation and really learning about what the situation looks like from the client's perspective. And then after taking time to learn where they are from an education standpoint and to hopefully establish some trust, then I think that really putting a lot of emphasis on education is a key ingredient to having that trust grow, so that they don't have to be the expert. They can be a person that understands what's happening, but they don't have to learn and become the expert themselves. That's what we're here for. But I do think it's very important that financial advisors don't talk down to people and belittle them or make them feel less than capable or any of those types of things. I'm very much a believer in making sure that I help educate along the way and hopefully gain the trust that I need to gain in order for them to say, I trust what your advice is here, Jeff, and so then we can move forward with a plan that's going to fit them well.
Right. I like that. In education empowers them instead of them feeling judged for not knowing and being afraid to ask the questions. It's okay to ask. It's okay. It's, perfectly normal to feel overwhelmed, because it's definitely overwhelming when you have to deal with all this stuff at once. And then you just make little steps in progress along the way.
Absolutely. Making progress is important. Having everything planned out perfectly is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's true.
Making progress is what it's all about.
So you can make adjustments as you need to.
Yes.
This is such an important piece. Not every advisor is the right fit, especially during divorce. What qualities should someone ask for? And when I say not every advisor is the right fit, you may already have an advisor that you've had with your spouse that's advised both of you based on your marriage and your financial situation there. That same person may not be the right fit for you post-divorce or even during the divorce. So what qualities do you think someone should look for?
I think listening is very important. Understanding the customer and the client very well is paramount, because you can't really give great advice unless you really understand not only what the circumstances are from a dollars and cents perspective, but from an emotional perspective and just a life view perspective. So listening well is one. I'd say trying to be respectful, trying to make sure that and empathetic as well. Understanding that this is an emotional time. It's a time that we may need to have a meeting sometimes where we're not really talking about the dollars and cents as much. Maybe we're talking about some of the other things that are going on, and just really understanding that our place is not to be dictators. We're not financial advisors. We're not here to make directives that are just because we know what to do. Here's what you need to do, and just kind of prescribe this. That's just not me. That's not what I believe. I believe that listening, empathizing, understanding, and then advising is how best to do this.
I love that. That's great. So what would be some good questions that a good advisor would ask their clients?
One question might be, what would it look like to be financially secure? What would financial security look like to you? That'd be a good one to start with. Another one might be, what keeps you up at night? What makes you, when it comes to the financial side of things, what makes you uneasy? What makes you not be able to, or what fears do you have? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And another good question would be, what's the future look like from your perspective? What does your financial future look like? And just really getting that vision, I think, in place. That's a really critical component, not just for anybody who's gone through this, but in any financial planning discussion that I have, having a vision of where you want to go is critically important. For trying to measure investment performance based on what some index is up or down relative to what your performance is and your portfolio is not nearly as effective as making sure that the goals of accomplishing the vision are taken care of.
And on the flip side, what questions should someone ask when interviewing a potential advisor?
I would say asking them what their process is for creating a plan. How does that work? What are my expectations? What should my expectations be of communication? How often will we be communicating about my financial planning? Maybe asking, we'll certainly want to know how's the advisor compensated. That's important for everybody to understand that. What other advisors do you have in your life? Who else do you listen to for advice? Those would be good questions.
One of the things that is not real popular, it definitely isn't around here, but if both parties are open to collaboration, like sometimes they do hire one attorney to handle the divorce because they're not in litigation about anything. They're open to collaborating with one another for both parties. That would be one of the questions that I think they should ask too, if the financial advisors was open to working with them both. Would that be a conflict, you think?
I don't think it has to be. if the financial advisor can work objectively at accomplishing the goals of each of the individuals in the divorce, and that's happened for me before. I've had a situation where a couple divorced and both of the individuals decided to continue to utilize our services going forward. And a couple of the key ingredients that has to happen there is, number one, there has to be a complete confidentiality within each one of them. Neither one of them can know what the others, and that may be difficult for a financial advisor to be able to do that well. If a financial advisor can do that well, I think it's perfectly okay for him or her to create a plan for each of the individuals that have gone through a divorce, and for it to be effective and helpful.
That's different for real estate agents, which is the business I'm in. We can represent both parties, and a lot of times we have to, if we got a listing and they're a married couple, they're both on the deed, they're both our clients, and we can't really be confidential. There's no way that we can be fair to both of them if we're not sharing with them both. So that does become uncomfortable sometimes because they can't even be in the same room with one another. So I've had to go to closings and one's come in and signed and the other later. I mean, there's been lots of stories I can tell with that, and even my own personal experience. That's a big difference with real estate agents, is we can't do that.
It is different. The key difference with a financial advisory relationship is that the assets are divided by the court or by their agreement, and that's where the financial advisor really gets involved, is once that has all been decided upon. And once that's been decided upon, there's really no need for any sort of interaction between the two parties going forward. So it might be easier. I'll admit it might be easier for one of the spouses to hire another financial advisor different from the one that maybe they'd use as a couple.
Maybe it could be with the same office, though. Like if they could stay with Merrill Lynch, but just have two different rooms.
Absolutely. It could be the same office, could be a different firm, but it also could be the same advisor if they're comfortable. And then that's really what it comes down to is the client comfortable, and does the client have trust that the advisor is going to help them going forward.
And there's some other things that come to my mind. It's like if they have like a beneficiary on some kind of financial, or like if something happens to one, then they're going to leave their asset to the other party. They would still be, kind of stuck, because a lot of times with the 401k, you have to, the divorce settlement says that you have to leave them, on your 401k, or they get part of it or whatever. There's situations that I can see where you would almost have to be very careful about when you represent them in that situation. So, well, Jeff, I want to thank you for bringing so much clarity and calm to a topic that's often very overwhelming. For anyone listening, if you're divorced or divorcing after 50, please know this: it's not too late to create a solid financial future. With the right support, education, and guidance, you can move forward with confidence. If you would like to book a consultation with Jeff, can you tell them how to reach you?
You can reach me at area code 859-231-5240. Also, jeff.corbett at ml for Merrill Lynch.com. You can also look me up on the internet. Our website is fa.merrilllynch/Jeff Corbett. Corbett is Corbett.
If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who may be navigating divorce after 50. And don't forget to subscribe to Divorce After 50 so you don't miss future conversations about rebuilding life financially, emotionally, and personally.